poll question. Is it the 0-2 team that will make the playoffs?
Yes. Which 0-2 team has the best chance of making the playoffs? I'll give you a hint. Giants are leading right now.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask Tony Dungy. Who do you think will be more likely to make it? Run down the 0-2 teams.
Okay, these are the ones we put on here. The
Okay.
Giants, the Vikings, the Redskins, the Panthers, and the Buccaneers.
I'd have to say Minnesota because they played 2 road games and they're in both games. NFC North, I'm still not sold on Chicago. I think they could get to second in their division. I'm just not sure about the Giants, how you fix that.
Well, they look terrible. You have 6 turnovers against the Cowboys, and then yesterday, it shouldn't be that easy for the Broncos to go in there and look like they did.
No, and they're struggling running the ball. They got one back who they don't want to give the ball because they don't think he can hang on to it. They're not blocking for him. They're turning the ball over, so Eli's playing from behind. And, I don't know how you fix those things quickly.
We talked about this during the rain delay last night with what Peyton Manning is doing and that he struggled in the first half of both games, but he's put up unbelievable numbers. And you said, look out. I mean, this might be a scary season for Peyton Manning.
I think they will just get better and better as he's starting to work with these. He's still developing chemistry with Welker. Julius Thomas is a new tight end that looks like he's going to be great for them. But I know Peyton gets better the more he works with guys. So that second year with Demaryius Thomas and Decker, you can see that going. They still are kind of working with their running backs. And is it Moreno, how quick are they going to get Monte Ball integrated? But he's off. I watched him in 2 games. He's not really sharp. And they got 35 points and no turnovers. And I just think, look out for these guys in November.
Okay, but you brought up something with Peyton that he struggled in the first half against the Ravens and yesterday with the Giants. He overthinks things. What is he like leading up to a game?
He is so much of a perfectionist, and he wants to be perfect, and he thinks his mind works in so many ways. So those 2 games, I could kind of see how that would happen because
He drive you crazy?
Well, at times because he's so smart. And, Baltimore, they had all this time and months to prepare. They can do this. And I looked at this, and, of course, well, Eli knows this, and we better do this differently because Eli will say this. And then you get out there in the second half, and he looks at all the pictures and says, oh, here's what they're doing. And then it's boom, 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 we'll do this. And he's amazing. He's the most thorough guy I've ever been around. Sometimes it'll go overboard, but he ends up figuring it out. And when he's zeroed in on what you're doing, he's hard to stop.
I like Seattle an awful lot, have them going to the Super Bowl, and part of the reason is they're going to go undefeated at home. I love the defense. They run the ball. Russell Wilson, as a game manager, can make a big play when he needs to. But what we saw last night, they made it look a lot easier against San Francisco than you would expect. But I looked at it differently with Colin Kaepernick. I felt he looked not scared, confused, timid.
Yes.
Something was there.
For the first time.
Right?
I mean, all last year you saw this guy just come in, playing with confidence, playing like he's in college, running, throwing, making whatever plays you had to. And then all of a sudden, last night, it was like the game was happening fast. And guys he had open, he couldn't quite hit them. He wasn't sure whether to run, take off or not. And, it just – Seattle's got a team that's really built for the environment they play in. All that noise, you get up there in November, December, you're going to have bad weather, a little bit of moisture, and all that's going to play into things.
Why is it so tough there with the noise?
Well,
the way the stadium's built?
Yes, it's built, and the fans understand that they can be a factor. So they built it to take advantage of that, and it's going to be like Buffalo, where you say, you know what, if we can win enough games where we can play Buffalo in the old days when Thurman and those guys were there. If we can win enough games to get them at our place, we can beat these guys. But when you have to go there late in the year with all that emotion and noise and energy and bad weather and them feeling good about themselves, they're going to be tough to. If they win 13 games and get home field advantage, I think they're going.
You talked about RG3 yesterday, you and Rodney Harrison, and you surprised me with your opinions. Now, I didn't think he should start the season because knowing how long it takes for a regular knee surgery and to recover from it, and I know he didn't play in the preseason, and my point was, well, if he can't play in the preseason, I don't want to slip him into the regular season week 1 unless he can be himself. Because it's hard for a quarterback instinctually to say, I got to think about what kind of quarterback I am. RG3 is thinking, well, I can't run, and he's thrown off his back leg, as Mike Shanahan, I mean, what would you do in a situation like this? We're now 2 games in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You always want your big guns out there, and they want to be out there. They want to be out there and help their team. But I'm seeing a guy who is not doing the same things that he did last year. So you're saying, we're going to change the offense. We're going to tailor it. We're going to keep him safe and let him throw from the pocket. He's still a good quarterback, and he is all that. But he's not 100%, and he's not presenting the problems that he did in the past.
But is he good enough? Are they good enough? If he's just a pocket passer and not the RG3 we saw last year, are they a dangerous team?
They're not really what they need to be. And he can do that, and maybe they'll win some games, but I'm worried about him getting hurt. Now, you're sitting there, you're just sitting in the pocket, you're not taking off, you're not playing instinctually, you're not just letting it flow. You better be winning to take that risk. I think he's at risk sitting in the pocket like he is right now, and that's why I would consider taking him out.
Does Kirk Cousins give them a better chance of winning right now?
I probably need one more game to determine that. Obviously, he's going to get better. As you said, no training camp, no preseason game. So this was like, game 3 of the preseason for him. And so he could get better. But what I've seen off the last 2 games, yes, Kirk Cousins, I think running that offense the way it is now would give them a better chance.
Did Mike Shanahan bring him back and play him too soon?
I think you had to do that. RG3 wanted to play. He's got medical clearance. You're seeing it in practice. It looks like it's there, but to me, it's just not quite there yet. And that's why I'd have the discussion now. Hey, we're 0-2. Do we ride this thing out? Or do we say, you know what, maybe Kirk gives us a better chance right now?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, though, if you had him take off the first 3 weeks of the regular season, is he going to be able to be himself? I guess I would want to know the time frame. Now, you have one of the finest orthopedic surgeons in the world, and Dr. Andrews, on your staff. Do they have information that says, look, in 3 weeks he'll be able, or 4 weeks he'll be able to be himself, or is this RG3?
Maybe that's what it is this year, and that could be what we don't know. This is how he's going to be, and they're going to ride it out and say, you know what, we've designed the offense for him. This is how he's going to have to play this year. I had Edgerrin James. He had a severe knee injury the same way. He came back and played my first year there, 2002, and he played okay. And he was our starting running back, and he did a good job. The next year, he was a different back, and we went all the way to the championship game. And I thought we had a good Edgerrin James that first year, but we really didn't have him until 2003. So maybe just where they are.
Yeah, it's not an 8-month process here. I mean,
For
we
most
look at
people.
Adrian Peterson and say, okay, that's the Adrian Peterson rule. Everybody doesn't fall under that, and I think that's part of the problem. These other athletes get pressure. Hey, Adrian Peterson came back. He's a running back. And RG3 being as competitive, it's a 12-month period at the minimum here, I think, for these guys to recover completely.
And they want to be out there to help their team, and it is valiant, and you admire that in competitors. But sometimes you have to look at it and say, hey, for your benefit, I don't know if we're doing you the right thing by putting you out there.
We'll continue with Tony Dungy here in the New York City Man Cave when we return. Just how good is Johnny Manziel? And if Tony were coaching now and had a top 5 draft pick, would he use it on Johnny Manziel? 1:30, Dan Patrick Show. Had a busy show here. Kind enough to have Tony Dungy joining us in studio, Man Cave. He had a late night. And Peter King from the MMQB will join us in studio as well. Peter reported last night that you had a scout from the Cleveland Browns there at the A&M Alabama game. Now, was he there to scout Johnny Manziel? Or if you're looking at A&M and Alabama, chances are you might
have every scout in the country.
You
there,
might have
right.
25 future NFL players. But let's focus in on Johnny Manziel. If you had a top 5 pick, and he'll come out after this year, would you, and you need a quarterback. Let's say you're Jacksonville. Let's say you got the first or second pick overall.
You have to look at it. To me, this is just like Michael Vick coming out years ago, and San Diego has the pick, and then Atlanta wants it. You're going to have people who say, I'm prepared to run this offense. It's going to be exciting. Johnny Manziel has won in high school. He's won in college. He's torn up the best defenses in college football. If I tailor my system to what he does, he can do the same thing in the NFL.
But would you draft him number 1 overall?
I'd be concerned about some of the off-the-field things.
That's the only
as far as if you give him Russell Wilson's
personality
and off the field, just physically on the field, I'd take him, and he's going to give defenses headaches.
Would you rather have a drop back quarterback or somebody who's able to improvise and use their legs?
I was a big RG3 guy, and when they came out, I said I'd take Griffin first. I'm rethinking that because I look at Andrew Luck now and a guy who's big and strong. He's got less chance to get hurt. He's going to be there week in and week out for you. There, you run that risk. And Manziel, the thing he does is move around, get out of things. Kaepernick is probably the perfect guy in that he can do all that.
He's
and
big.
He's big.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about that injury factor too. But I think you're going to be more consistent with that drop back quarterback, that Peyton, Eli type Tom Brady. But these guys who can move around, they're going to give you headaches, and they'll get on rolls and be tough to defend.
But you have the offenses now. It's changing. The evolution. I know there's always going to be a place for the drop-back passer, but you see what's going on with the new offenses, Chip Kelly's offense, where we see more of that. It's a copycat league. You bring in Manziel, and all of a sudden now I got to be thinking what I'm going to be able to do here. Everybody's putting up points. All the rules favor the offense. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm Jacksonville in SEC country, I can bring in Manziel. I got somebody people will go see. And I got somebody who, on a bad team, can still make us at least competitive.
And you have to look at what's your alternative. Okay, if you if you don't have a quarterback and you're not scoring points, who are you going to take? You're going to trade for Matt Flynn and give him another shot and say, he can do
Kevin
it.
Cobb.
Yeah, you can go that route. You can take a guy in college who's more of a classic guy. But this is what the colleges are giving you now. They're giving you these guys who can do a lot of things. And Cam Newton. Russell Wilson, you just see it, and Manziel he's exciting, and he's a winner.
You got Cincinnati and Pittsburgh coming up tonight.
Big game.
Now, Cincinnati appears to be ready to take that next step. We see this with young teams, and just when we get ready to anoint them, then they have a game like they did last week against Chicago. What do you expect from Cincinnati this year?
I really like Cincinnati a lot. I think their defense is getting better all the time. Andy Dalton is starting to get comfortable. They've got some weaponry, throwing the ball. They have everything you feel like it takes to be a contender, but you got to have that maturity. You've got to be able to do it in big situations.
Yeah.
They kind of self-destructed, blew up last week at Chicago when they had the lead. Now you're playing Pittsburgh, and this is the game to me. Is the tide turning? Are we the ones now that the Steelers are chasing? They've got a chance to make that statement tonight.
Well, they're supposed to win this game tonight. But I'm looking at Pittsburgh, and they got old right before our very eyes here. And I don't know how good they are.
That, to me, is what we'll find out tonight. This is a big, big game for them. Offensively, they've had to make some changes, do things a little differently.
Offensive line. And
they're not able to run the ball. So it's going to be Ben Roethlisberger's show. He's going to have to win it. But defensively, can they really stand up? Can they handle these fast, young receivers? Can they get pressure on Andy Dalton? Can they win the game defensively? They've been able to do it in the past. I don't know that they'll do it tonight. I think the offense is going to have to score points.
You live in Tampa. I can only imagine what the talk shows and the headlines are going to be with what we've seen. Greg Schiano's brought in as a disciplinarian, college guy, rah-rah. All of a sudden, this team's falling apart right before our very eyes. What is going on there?
Well, the two big things, you hit it. Last year or 2 years ago with Raheem Morris, they were seen as an undisciplined team. We need that. They brought in Coach Schiano. It came in with a lot of meticulousness in training camp. These are the rules. Here's how we're going to do it. 2 games this year, a ton of penalties, mistakes, interceptions at the wrong time, and there doesn't seem to be a chemistry right now with his quarterback. Josh Freeman and he don't seem to be on the same page. Everybody in town is talking about that. What is going on? Is he the quarterback of the future? I think it's a big distraction for Tampa right now.
Yeah, but I look at this and it doesn't end well.
They're going to New England this week.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But I'm thinking about bigger picture here. Josh Freeman doesn't have a future there in Tampa. It certainly wouldn't appear that way.
It's got to change fast if he does. Right now, he's not playing well. He's not playing like a guy who feels like everybody's got his back. And that's what I see with just some of the mistakes that he's making this year that he didn't make 2 years ago.
Good to see you. I know you got a busy afternoon, but had fun last night on
the set. It was
set.
Fun. We did some radio on TV.
Yeah, we got a lot of airtime. I told Rodney at one point, I said, hey, it's just us in this room. Don't worry about the 25 million people watching us. We'll just talk here. And what was happening is, we were waiting to see how much time we had to fill. and our producer, Sam Flood, would say, all right, Al's going to be throwing it to you in about 60 seconds. How about we talk about Redskins, we can talk, Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, and then you want to talk about Manziel, you can talk about and RG3. And then all of a sudden, Al goes, and let's go back to New York and Dan Patrick. Thank you, Al. Hey, guys, let's talk about. And then we would throw it back to Al, and then we weren't sure weather delay. And then all of a sudden, they bring in Jim Cantori and Michelle Tafoya, and then our producer said, they're going to come back to you. We need you to talk about.
You got 18 more minutes.
Yeah. I go, all right, sure, why not? It's like we were doing a telethon there. I have no problem with that, but it was fun. It was fun last night. Good talking football with you. Tony Dungy from Football Night in America. Your phone call's next. Coming up on 15 before the hour, this is The Dan Patrick Show.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.